All right, photo 3-4, time for a little more manual exposure practice. So, see if you can follow along here. I'm out here on a bright sunny day to take some photographs. First thing I need to do is get my camera onto the mode dial of M. So let me change that real quick. All right, that's done. And I'm out here on a bright sunny day, so I need to start by setting my ISO to, let's go 100. This is hard to do with one hand. Let me change that real quick. Okay, and then for this shot, I want a nice shallow depth of field. So in order to get a shallow depth of field, I need to set my f-stop as low as it can go. With this lens right here, it looks like the lowest it gets is down to f3.5. So the next step would be to do what? So that's right, I'm gonna just take a quick picture and see how it looks. And in my opinion, it's hard to see right here, but that is about one stop overexposed. So if I'm at 1/320, actually let's call it 1/400 to make things easier. If I'm at 1/400 and my photo is one stop overexposed, and I would like to fix that by changing the shutter speed, what shutter speed would be the correct shutter speed? Remember, our shutter speed's double every stop. So to make this photo one stop darker, I have to go from 1/400 to 1/800. And that fixes my exposure and gives me the exposure I want. Okay, so now here I am in the shade. I want to get a photo of this little cool little Halloween decoration that my wife has up. And so first thing I need to do is change my ISO to what when we're shooting in the shade? That's right, ISO 400 is a good starting point for shooting in the shade. Let me fix that real quick. All right, so I'm set to ISO 400, and again, I want a nice shallow depth of field, so I'm at f3.5, and let's go ahead and just take this photo. And you can see, in my opinion, that's a little too dark, maybe about one stop too dark. So I want to fix that by changing the shutter speed. So what should I change it to? That's right, 1/1000 should fix that. I'm letting in one stop more light, and that's going to give me an exposure that works for this shot. All right, let's change things up a little bit here. I'm out, it's a bright sunny day still. This time, I know there's gonna be some real fast cars driving down my street later today, and I wanna freeze that motion of them driving past, but I also want a deep depth of field because there's gonna be a bunch of them, and I wanna make sure they're all in focus. So I need that fast shutter speed of 1/2000. I need that high f-stop of f22, but when I take a photo at that exposure, look at how it comes out. It's way too dark. So I'd call that about maybe 2 stops too dark, maybe even more, maybe 3. So I need to fix this. I can't change my shutter speed. I can't change my f-stop. So what am I going to do? Am I going to raise or lower my ISO? Good call. I'm going to raise it up. So let's see how much we need to raise it. It's currently at 400. Let's raise this up a little bit and see what happens. Let's try 800 and see how that looks. Still way too dark, so we got to keep going, right? So I figure, based on how that photo looks, I figure that we probably need to raise our ISO about 3 stops. Remembering that ISOs double every stop, what ISO is going to give us a good exposure? That's right, ISO 6400 should work, so let's crank it up. There's one stop, 1600, 2 stops to 3200, and one more stop to 6400. And you can see that gives me a pretty solid exposure of my street here in front of my house. That's not too bright or too dark, and a good manual exposure. All right, one last one. Now I want a deep, deep depth of field, but I don't really care about my shutter speed as much. So I know I want to shoot at f22. I know I don't need that fast of a shutter speed, so I've lowered my ISO back down to 400, which is a good ISO for getting that deep, deep depth of field. And I take a photo and it's too dark. In fact, I am so good, I can tell you exactly that it is 4 stops too dark. So 1/2000 is 4 stops too dark. So I need to let in 4 stops more light through the shutter speed. What shutter speed is going to solve that problem? If you said 1/125, you were correct, because we need to let in 4 stops more light. Let's count it out. 1, 2, 3. That's one stop from 2000 to 1000. From 2000 to 1000 is one stop. 1000 to 500 is 2 stops. 500 to 250 is 3 stops, and 250 to 125 is 4 stops. That's 3 clicks of the wheel, by the way, is one stop. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3 is one stop. So you can see 1/125 at f22 at ISO 400 gives us that deep depth of field and the exposure we want for this assignment. All right, guys, hopefully that helps you understand manual exposure a little bit better.